Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I have 5 cards to share with you guys. I have had this idea mulling in the back of my brain for a couple weeks now. I wanted to use the My Favorite Things End of the Rainbow Die-namics, and I could not make up my mind how I wanted to create the rainbow itself, other than the dies, obviously. And it's been kind of bothering me for a while because I couldn't decide which way to do it, and finally decided today to do all the ways I was thinking of, and I just happened to luck out, and the littles slept for a little bit extra longer of a nap, so I was able to get mostly all these cards done in one sitting, which was awesome. So I have a whole bunch of different little tips and tricks to share with you guys. The first one being is I die cut 2 sets of the rainbow from some watercolor cardstock, and then I'm using press and seal, which is a form of cling wrap, and it's sticky, but it doesn't leave a residue. Until you actually have handled it yourself, you know what I mean. This stuff's amazing in the kitchen, but it is fabulous in the craft room. For those that don't know, Jennifer McGuire's husband invented press and seal. Everyone's been talking about it the last couple months just because there's so many fun techniques you can do with it. So I used it here to hold these die cuts in place. My first idea is I wanted to watercolor in the rainbow colors, but I wanted the colors to kind of blend into each other. So I'm using the press and seal to hold everything, butted up against each other because it was just more convenient this way. Plus it gives me something to hold on to so that I'm not touching these die cuts and smearing anything with my fingers. And then what I had done was I had just wet them down with clean, clear water. And then I'm picking up Peerless watercolors. I've done separate videos on my Peerless, how I've got them cut out, and they're just adhered to a piece of watercolor cardstock. And then that way I can pick up the color and go from there. So I watercolored on the colors onto that piece and just let the colors kind of blend into each other. And then with my second set of die cuts, I did the press and seal method again, but this time I stuck them onto the press and seal slightly separated because I didn't want the colors this time to blend together. So I've got them all separated just a little bit, and I do the exact same thing. I get each piece wet with clean, clear water, and then I'm applying the exact same watercolors as I did in the first one, but this time each stripe of the rainbow is its own individual color. So again, I'm going to show all these different methods because I couldn't make up my mind. So this was kind of a fun way to get it all out of my system and figure out which method is my favorite. So I really love the Peerless because they are so vibrant. They're super easy to use. I have several videos on my channel showing them. And using them like this on the die cuts and using the press and seal is awesome. I haven't shown the press and seal before because for the longest time I've had a hard time getting my hands on it. It's been selling out everywhere. I always forget to look for it when I go to the grocery store, but I will have links to it in the description below. So I die cut another piece of watercolor cardstock with that same die, and again pressed it down onto the press and seal because once I got going it was just so much more convenient to hold everything in place. And then this time I wanted to sponge some distress inks onto it. And with this, especially when sponging distress inks onto watercolor paper, you definitely want to make sure not to touch it with your fingers because it will leave marks. Your fingers will smudge it. So this is nice to have. That's why I left the negative space as well, just to pick up some of the ink and also to give me a place to hold as well as the press and seal. And for this one, I kept all the pieces butted up against each other, just like with the first watercolor piece. And I only sponged on 3 colors of distress ink. I used Squeezed Lemonade, Candied Apple, and Blueprint Sketch, and let the colors kind of blend in and create its own orange and its own green. And then, of course, I couldn't resist spraying it with a distress sprayer, like spraying it with a bit of water, and then lifting off that water with paper towel to create that splattered effect, because that's the funnest thing with distress inks, how they react with water. And then for my second piece, I did the same kind of idea, is I sponged all the strips this time, but did them separately. So I didn't adhere them or hold them in place or anything like that. I just held them down with a scrap of cardstock, the same thing. You don't want to get it, like, especially when you're sponging over watercolor paper with distress inks, they tend to stay a little bit wetter for a little bit longer, and fingerprints will show up on them. So I just sponged each strip with a different color, and this time obviously pulled in an orange, a green, and a purple. So I pulled in Blueprint Sketch. No, I already had that one. Carved Pumpkin, Mowed Lawn, and Wilted Violet. Sorry, it's super late. It's like 1 a.m. and I am exhausted. But anyway, I wanted to get this done so I can upload overnight. So I sponged all those, and I decided the yellow strip that I'd done in Squeeze Lemonade was slightly too pale with all these colors. So I pulled in a bit of my mustard seed ink and adhered or sponged a little bit of that on top. And I was much more happy with it. And then again, did the same thing. Sprayed it with my Distress sprayer, let it sit for 30-ish seconds, something like that. And picked up the extra with paper towel and then set that aside to fully dry. So my last technique is to use just colored cardstock. And this one takes a little bit of time and effort because you have to run the die through multiple times, unless you wanted to create quite a few cards and just alternate which colors where you lay out the rainbow. I just used scraps, so I only created enough to make that one rainbow. So here are 5 different ways to create rainbow colored cards. So with the press and seal, I let everything dry, and then they just peel off. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't leave any residue, anything like that. It releases the cardstock really easily, so it's great to have in your craft room. So I got all my pieces arranged and was just kind of admiring them for a few minutes because I really liked them. I love rainbow. I've said that in other videos. I really love rainbow. I don't know why. I just do. So I then needed to figure out how I'm going to adhere these to my card. Like, I can do it piece by piece, but that's going to take forever. And like I said, I'm racing nap times lately. That's usually the only crafty time I have. And I don't have a whole lot of time. Plus, I didn't want to sit and fiddle with like this many. If it was just for one card, it wasn't so bad. But my brain started working, and I used the negative space from one of the die cuts, and I had pressed it onto the press and seal there, and I used that as my guide to realign all these rainbow strips. So I'd get the whole rainbow back organized, and then I pressed on just a small piece of the press and seal to hold from the front. So then I've got each of the 5 rainbow pieces all in order, all lined up how they're going to go on the card, and then being held together by that piece of press and seal. So once I've got all of that, I determined the best way to adhere these was to pull out my little, or not even pull it out, it's been sitting on my desk since I got it, my little Xyron Creative Station Lite that I showed in my last video. When I'm doing something like this little baby is awesome. So I have the permanent adhesive cartridge in there, and I determined I was able to run through 2 of these rainbow die cuts at a time. So I got them lined up, and then I started running them through the machine. So it is applying adhesive to the back of them. And this is also where it is so perfect having them stuck together with that press and seal, because otherwise I'd be fiddling forever to get each one of those little rainbow strips through this machine. Like, no, I ain't got time for that. So I ran through all 5 of these so quickly, so easily, got all that adhesive on the back of them. And then I just take my Teflon bone folder after I've cut that off from the roll. And then I just take my Teflon bone folder, rub it over everything really, really well. And you also want to press all around the edges so that that plastic piece on the top takes up all that excess adhesive. So I just go over it really quickly with my Teflon bone folder. And then I die cut some MFT snow cone cardstock with the large stitched die from the Blueprints 25 Die-namics set. And that cuts an A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece with the stitching around the edge. I just thought that'd be a nice little finishing touch. And then I peel off the release paper from my little Xyron, and I have basically all these rainbow stickers. So I'm able to peel off each one, and they all come off in one piece thanks to that press and seal. And then I'm able to kind of hold on to the press and seal and get these adhered into place. See, I was patting myself on the back at this point, you guys. It just made it go so much quicker. Like, the fact that I was able to create 5 cards in one sitting, yes, they're all similar, but yet they all have different techniques to them, and all of these different pieces. It was fun. I really enjoyed doing this. So I just did one at a time, got it into place, peeled off the press and seal, no worry of adhesive or anything from that. And then any little tiny bits of remaining adhesive from running it through the Xyron, because sometimes, just around the edges, some will stick out. I just rub that away with my hands. And then included with this rainbow die in the end of the rainbow set, There's also a fun stitched cloud die. So I die cut 5 pieces from some white cardstock, as well as 5 pieces from vellum. And then there is a coordinating stamp set called Rainbow Greetings that was made to kind of coordinate with these dies. Sorry, my brain is just fried tonight. I'm so tired. Anyway, I decided I thought about stamping all the sentiments onto the white clouds with some black ink, but instead decided to stamp them onto the vellum clouds with Versamark ink and then embossing them with some white embossing powder. So I treated each cloud with my anti-static powder tool, and then I stamped each of the sentiments with Versamark ink, and I chose a different sentiment for each cloud because I thought, you know what, I got the different types of rainbows, I might as well make a variety of cards with them. So I stamped and embossed all the sentiments, and then I took each of the white die cut clouds and just use a bit of my ATG adhesive. I did think about running these through my Xyron too, just for speed, but I was already planning on cutting the bottom half of each of these off. So that to me is just a total waste of adhesive. So I used my ATG for this so I could apply adhesive just to the very top of each cloud. And back into kind of my mass producing mode is I apply adhesive to everything all at once, adhere them to each card front all at once, and then do all the cutting all at once. It just makes everything go a lot quicker and smoother. So once I had each of those clouds adhered, I'd flip over the back and use the bottom of the card front as my guide to trim off any of the pieces. And then this is something actually a lot of people have been asking since the last video went up, how this works with vellum. So I did test it and I was happy with it. I will say that when you use vellum with the Xyron, it basically makes the vellum almost a little more transparent, if that makes sense. It's just, I kind of thought it would, because when you apply adhesive all across the back, the adhesive doesn't necessarily show up, but because the entire back is coated, it does make it a little bit more transparent. It's a little bit less white. And for these, I was okay with that because one, it just made my life so much easier to run all these little cloud die cuts through the machine. There's adhesive evenly across the back, so I didn't have to sit and fiddle like adding, say, multimedia matte adhesive right behind the embossing because, you know, most adhesives do show through vellum. So this was super quick, so I was able to peel up each one just like a sticker and stick it onto my card front, and this just made me happy. It made this whole process so seamless. So you just want to be careful when you're peeling them up, obviously, because the entire back is coated with adhesive, so you don't want it to pick up anything because it's vellum, you can see through it, as well as you don't want to rip the vellum. I didn't have any problem, but just looking at it now, it's like you definitely want to be a little gentle with it. So once I was done with all that, I have all my card bases, and I just chose white cardstock for my card bases, cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. And then there was 5 more sentiments left in that set. So I stamped the inside of each with a different sentiment, and I used the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. So stamped all that, and then to adhere all these card fronts, I just used my ATG again, ran that all along the edges, and then adhered these flat to each card base. And I could have left it here, and I did actually, because the kids did wake up and went and did my mom duties and all that. And then I had a few minutes later, because it was in the back of my mind. You guys know what's coming. I couldn't leave them. I thought about leaving these flat, letting the rainbows, do their thing. But yeah, just accidentally had to dump that entire thing of Pretty Pink Posh sparkling clear sequins. So arranged those onto my card front and adhered them into place with my multimedia matte adhesive. And then they were done. So as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post with pictures of everything, as well as links to all the supplies used. Check that out below in the description box if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. If you missed my previous video with the little pony magnets that I made with the Xyron, check that out if you are interested. It'll be on my YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye.